Today, canceling COVID. I'm Tanya Rivens, and we give a real unfiltered look at the pandemics that are having effects in our schools, in our homes, in our businesses. I appreciate you joining me on this Friday. Right now, North Carolina, well, we're in the red zone for COVID 19 cases. We've got the 10th highest rate in the country. And let me put this in perspective for you. Mecklenburg County averaged 900 new COVID 19 cases a day. That's up from 100 cases a day in September. Now, if you're concerned that the worst is yet to come, well, it's keeping Charlotte Mecklenburg school students in remote learning for at least another month. Another month. You're looking at right now some of the COVID numbers that CMS has reviewed this week, and COVID clusters reported between January 4th and January 8th. 46 students and 98 staff members were treated for COVID during the same time frame. The highest number of those cases were at Bain Elementary School. In fact, 82 schools had at least one positive case in the last 2 weeks. Hear me now. We're talking about lives, we're talking about people. CMS students will remain virtual until at least February 15th. And thanks to an 8-to-1 Board of Education vote, parents are extremely passionate about this. And I tuned into the meeting on yesterday. You can see some of the comments that we were able to go through. Many comments and questions on Facebook. And I tuned into the Board of Education meeting. As I stated, I saw quite a balance of different opinions. But we're going to bring in right now Board of Education Chair Elyse Dashew for Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools. She's going to help us navigate through these things that's impacting our students and our CMS family. So, good morning, Miss Dashew. Good afternoon, that is. And thank you for joining us. I know you're extremely busy, so I'm so grateful that you're taking the time to talk with us. So, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon from my car. I'm not
I
driving
want to
right
start
now, just for the record, but I'm really grateful for
good.
the opportunity
Well,
and the conversation that you keep going. So it's so important to talk about this.
and you've always been passionate about the community. You've always been receptive, and I'm grateful that even in your car, you made time to squeeze us in your schedule because I know it's not because you don't have other work to do. So let's dive in and talk about how difficult has it been for you to support keeping students remote for at least another month?
Agonizing. I mean, every time we have to make this decision again, it gets harder. I cannot, I mean, I almost feel like hungover today because of the
Uh,
stress hormones that have been pumping through my body for the past week. It's just gut
right.
wrenching. It's heartbreaking. But we have to do the very best we can with the cards we've been dealt. And first and foremost, we are responsible for the safety of our students and also for the safety of the 19,000 employees of CMS. And so, of course, we're also responsible for giving our kids the best education possible, and we've got to balance those
And that's it.
two things that kind of cancel each other out sometimes.
And it's not an easy job. Some parents, at least more than 7,000, have now commented on the thread on your page, and the question of why not stop the back and forth and just cancel in-person learning, that is, for the rest of the year. It keeps coming up. How would you respond to that?
I really I feel that. I mean, I'm suffering from the back and forth too. Um, and yet at the same time, we need to get our kids into school as soon as it's safe, and we just have not been able to predict the course of the virus and predict when these infection numbers are going to peak, and when it's going to level off, and when hospital space is going to free up again. And so it is really tempting to just call it for the rest of the quarter or even for the rest of the semester. But at the same time, the numbers might come down, and then we might be losing an opportunity to get everyone back together in the schoolhouse again. And that's, I mean, that's what we're aiming for. The other
And
thing that
that's
we
your
need to consider is, oh, no, go ahead.
no, I want you to highlight the other issue because it's a fluid situation. And so, absolutely, the other thing you're taking into consideration.
The other thing that we're taking into consideration, I mean, safety is first and foremost. Academics is highest, also the highest priority. But we're also responsible for the livelihood of our employees, and we have certain hourly employees whose jobs cannot be done remotely and who have no work when we're in remote. And by law, we're not allowed to pay them unless they're working. And so thus far, our staff has been incredibly resourceful and thinking outside of the box and finding alternative work for our employees. And we've also been able to offer leave while we've been in remote. We haven't had to furlough anybody yet. But if we stay in remote a second longer, I mean, if we stay much longer in remote, we might be looking at having to lay off really valuable
Wow.
employees, like, you know, and so
And I
we're
never even
considering
never
that
thought
too.
about that. Yeah, that's something else to consider. And we've got some people hopping on, making comments, and feeling like this is like Pete Downing says that canceling school is not the answer, but school isn't canceled. It's happening online. CMS has such a large district. Has there been any talk about just maybe handling it, maybe school by school, look at each
Hmm.
school area and see how one is impacted versus the other? I think Miami-Dade comes to mind as one that keeps coming up in conversation. They're the fourth largest school district in the country, and they've been handling something similar in that manner. Has that been considered as well?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, when we do go back to in person, the superintendent has the authority to send a school to remote learning if the conditions warrant that, without having to call the board again for another emergency meeting. And in fact, a recent change that was just made, that he could even send a portion of a school to remote learning if that is necessary. And so that will be a very important tool sort of in the toolbox when we do go back to in person.
And I've got another comment here from one. Her name is Ann Thompson. She says we need the community to step up and stay in along the lines of keeping safe and practice.
So important. I know a lot of us are taking this seriously, but there are a lot of people who just aren't taking it seriously, and it's impacting all of us. Are you there?
On screen. Um, there you are. How do you all come
Okay,
up, Miss
sorry, it
Dashew?
froze up for a minute. Sorry about
That's
that.
okay. That's okay. We're used to this by now. That we're all online, and so we're at the mercy of the internet service. But I was asking, how do you all come